Hey, everyone,
Are you on, John?
am I on now?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, this is a call to order of Johnson County Council meeting June 12th, 2023. We just heard an update from Mike Reuter, and now this is the regular meeting. Roll call, please.
Jonathan Myers,
Here.
Pamela Burton,
Present.
John Mallers,
Here.
Ron Deere,
He was on Zoom.
John Myers,
Here.
John Dittmer,
Here.
Melanie Eastman.
Yes. Right. Pamela Burton, could you give us the invocation, please?
Yes, thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening to seek your guidance and wisdom as we make decisions that will impact our community. We pray for your presence to be with us during this meeting and ask that you guide our thoughts, words, and actions. We pray for the leaders of our community that you would grant them wisdom, discernment, and integrity as they lead. Help us to make decisions that will honor you and benefit all that we serve. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we have a couple of changes to tonight's agenda. Item C2 and D3 will be tabled until July. So C2 and D3.
D2, C2, and D3.
We will also add one item, E3, and it's concerning it's a declaration of fiscal body for Edinburgh Wright Hagerman Public Library. That'll be added for item E3. Take a motion for approval. 612 would move to approve. Second. Moved by John Dittmer, second by John Myers. And we'll need to take roll call votes on all votes, please. So roll call vote, please.
Yes.
John Mallers,
Yes.
Ron Deere,
Yes.
John Myers,
Yes.
Jonathan Myers,
Yes. Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, at this point in time, we have public comments. Anybody that wants to make a public comment, come to the podium and list your name and address. Limits to 5 minutes. Do I have any public comments at this time? Anybody online? Hearing or seeing none, we'll move on. All right, the next item on the agenda is routine matters. It's a consent agenda. It's by a single motion. Board approves the following items, and any one item could be removed by a council member and moved to the regular agenda. So, discussion on consent agenda.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Motion to approve by John Myers,
Second.
second by John Mollers. Any further discussion? So I'll need a roll call again, please.
Pam Burton,
Yes.
John Mallers,
Aye.
Jonathan Myers,
Aye.
John Myers,
Aye.
Ron Deere.
Aye.
John Dittmer,
Aye.
Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Next item will be item C1, which is emergency management. Hello, Stephanie Ceasing.
Good evening, Stephanie Seasting, Emergency Management Director. I'm asking for appropriation to pay for more dumpsters that were put on county property for the weather event we had.
Any questions?
Will this be reimbursed by,
I've already turned in a lot of them to FEMA. And as of Wednesday, we are having our first applicant briefing for public assistance. They did approve that. President Biden signed it, so we are eligible for public assistance.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Motion approved by John Myers,
Second.
second by Mr. Deere. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Cam Burton,
Aye.
John Mallers.
Yes.
Ron Deere,
Aye.
Jonathan Myers,
Aye.
John Myers.
Aye.
John Dickers.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. So item C2 is tabled and moved to the next meeting. Next item is item C3, Community Corrections Juvenile Grant 23-24, number 9123.
Good evening, Damon Cox, Assistant Director for Juvenile Community Corrections. Item 3 is the approval for appropriations for our grant received from DOC Division of Youth Services. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
So this is all grant.
Yes, sir. Both 3 and 4 grants.
Okay, we could take these together as a motion. Okay, any further discussion or any further questions for Damon? What's the term of the grant again? It's to 2024.
Yeah, it goes from July 1 of 23 to June 30th, 24.
Do you anticipate that'll keep rolling?
It is the same grant, the DOC grant, is the same one we received since the beginning. And then the DCS grant, number 4, we've received for several years as well.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Motion approved by John Myers,
Second.
second by John Mollers. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Cam Burton,
Yes.
John Mallers,
Aye.
Ron Deere,
Aye.
Jonathan Myers,
Aye.
John Myers,
Aye.
John Dickers.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We next have a presentation from Lori Meyer.
Mr. President, I'd like to say something prior to Lori starting, if I may.
Of course.
Just wanted to let the other council members know that I recently met with Lori and her staff regarding the delinquency of juveniles in our county and in our community. And as the liaison to that department, I just want you all to know that I have researched and validated everything that she will be presenting, to you today. The nature of the juvenile delinquency has changed significantly in the last 2 decades, as I'm sure everyone in this room knows. The types of crimes now being committed by juveniles have gone from vandalism, theft, and drug abuse to crimes related to social media, cyberbullying, sexting, online harassment, and unfortunately, even murder and assault, as I'm sure everyone sees every morning on the morning news. In the past, it's always been focused on punishment and incarceration. Today, there's more of a focus on prevention and intervention, especially in our county. So we've made great strides in recognizing the importance of mental health and well-being recently. And when it comes to juvenile mental health, we don't want to fall short in providing the necessary support and resources to our young people. I know that as a county, we do recognize the critical need for mental health programs for juvenile, and we strive to invest in them in our future. And I know after working with Lori and her staff, I just feel this department has some critical interests that they do need to make everyone aware of. So I appreciate their time. I appreciate them doing this. And as their liaison, I just wanted you to know that I have researched it and fully support the presentation. So
Thank you, Council. I think we all mirror that. But Lori,
Thank you.
you're up.
There is a PowerPoint that I sent out. I don't know how or if that's going to be presented.
Lori, it's hard. I can hardly hear you up here.
Okay, I'll see if I can move this. I don't know. But sort of in my true form, you have the PowerPoint in front of you. It was presented. I don't know if it's being shown online or what. But rather than going slide by slide, and I'm assuming that you've had a chance to review that or can based on what you have in front of you. I really wanted to take the opportunity to just more speak to you personally. I know that I've been told by some of the folks, in this room that my introvertedness and lack of enthusiasm for standing in front of large crowds and speaking has perhaps caused my department to not have some of the visibility that maybe they deserve. And so if it were for me, I would still stay silent, be the workhorse in the background, but my staff and my agency deserves better than that. So here I am. So just to kind of walk through some of the things that we're facing and what I need you to know about our agency is that since we began as a community corrections juvenile department in 1990, we have been 100% self-funded the entire time until 2021. And at that point in time, this council granted us approval to pick up those, at that point, the midpoint raises and the supplemental salary increases since 21 forward. None of the previous supplementals or base salaries, but just from that midpoint and the adjustments. And so we're grateful for that. We have struggled to be a self-funded agency all of these years. It made me a grant writer that I didn't know that I was, but apparently I'm better at it than I anticipated. So we've managed, but it juggles a lot of a complex budget for you all to keep track of. We have seen, again, as Councilwoman Burton mentioned, the increase in gun offenses, more serious type of crimes, mental illness from the kids that we're working with. We've taken great strides to not place youth in our detention facilities, but that then means that they're a part of community corrections programs. So I want to clarify here for folks that are less knowledgeable. Community corrections is a branch of the juvenile justice system and the adult justice system. We are not probation. We are not the detention center. We are the court. We are the branch that provides programming and services to youth that are at risk and their families. We have two purposes. One is to prevent youth from getting into the Department of Corrections or boys' school or girls' school or detention. And the other is if they find themselves in that space to transfer them out successfully into the community. So on the juvenile side, we spend more time on trying to prevent them from that life of crime and incarceration or addiction. So with that being said, we are first in the state with the numbers of programs and the range of programmings that we offer. We have 18 programs that I oversee. Staff of 5 full-time and 7 part-time staff to accomplish that. That being said, our referral numbers are sometimes double in this last year or two, especially with prevention services and school-based services. COVID created a weird phenomenon where apparently parents and children have decided there's not a need to go to school anymore. And since that's one of our approaches, we're just doubled up on the number of students that don't go to school that we're trying to assist. Sometimes people ask me, why is Lori Myers and Community Corrections so invested in getting kids to school? And my pat answer to this is, not all delinquent youth miss school, or I'm sorry, not all kids that miss school chronically are delinquent, but we know 100% of our delinquent youth missed school chronically. So when my job is to prevent delinquency, I have to get kids to school. It is the only thing that if a child decides to go against their family norms or wants to make a change, having a high school diploma and the ability to work in the workforce and have an education is the ticket out of their past. So we're invested in that pretty heavily. We are struggling just drastically for classroom space. I have 18 programs. I have no room for these classes to happen. We have in our building, the justice system, juvenile building, we have one classroom, a conference room that we invade every day. As soon as 4 o'clock hits, we invade those spaces until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night with kids and families. We have office spaces where people are all doubled up or working remotely or trying to sometimes just work out of their car. We have offices at several of the school corporations for our school-based staff. So we're struggling with space. Our kids we know our data shows us that all of our kids, 100% that we have detained from Johnson County, have ACE scores or adverse childhood experience trauma scores that put them at a very high risk. So we know our kids have been highly traumatized based on actual statistical data that we've collected. We have to start treating that and working with that. It changes the face of the staff that I have. They now need to have different degrees and different specialties in order to deal with the mental health needs and the addiction substance needs that our kids are showing. It used to be that you had a 12 to 18-year-old child and they may be abusing drugs and alcohol, but they weren't chemically dependent, scientifically speaking, diagnosably speaking. That is not the case now. And we have 12, 13, 14-year-old kids that fall in that category, and we need help to serve them. We have found that we've gotten a decrease in some of our funding coming up for this next fiscal year. The DCS funding is down slightly. That is not a result of our performance, but rather a result of them wanting to provide a broader range of services to this region. And so they reduced all of the budget lines of the past applicants to make room for new services. There is also some House bills that have been passed, some that are probably going to be passed, whether it holds true for January of 24 or into July, that's going to dictate to us from the state that we no longer are permitted to collect user fees. And when we can't collect user fees, that is going to, I'll be honest with you, it is not the be all end all of our budget. We usually collect only about average $25,000 a year. But with that being said, that's significant to the size of budget and the things that we're trying to do with that. But I also want you to know that the juvenile community corrections staff are leaders in this state. I say that humbly, but it is just true. When other communities are trying to get things on board, there's a PowerPoint. They are looking to us. We've presented at most juvenile justice conferences in the last 2 years. The most recent one had more than 400 participants from other juvenile justice agencies in the state, wanting to know what we're doing, wanting to duplicate what we do. And I'm very, very proud of that. Through our trauma practices, we have been able to reduce the number of incident reports, lockdowns, and use of force within our juvenile detention center. We have been very innovative when services, this is honestly how this works, when Judge Bone, probation, the courts say, we're seeing an issue, we have gaps in services, here's a situation that's happening, we need services to offset that problem. They turn to Lori Myers and Juvenile Community Corrections and they say, patch the hole, find the money, find the programming, staff it, get it done. And that's why we have 18 of those on the books at this time, because that has been what we've done for many years. The other counties, community corrections agencies in the state have 3 or 4. Well, I think one county has 4 programs. The rest of them have 2 or 3 programs compared to our 18. So I want you to share in our pride in what we're doing and the level in which we perform. But we're also we have reached a saturation point where we just can't continue with the mental health and the issues that we're seeing, the level of crimes, the level of referrals that we have. You may be sitting there saying, what does she want? What is she asking for? I don't know that right now. All I know is I want you to celebrate in what we do, understand who we are, to have enough information to ask me hard questions so that we can work on this together. I know there's, probably a lot of other justice folks that you know better than me. And again, I understand that that's just because I prefer not to be in this space. But it's time, I think, for us to show up and say, this is who we are. We need your support. The time is critical within juvenile justice. If you ever want to come out and take a look at what we've done, our system, our buildings, our probation offices, our detention center, our court, if you were there 4 years ago, that building doesn't look even remotely the same. And you haven't seen those, claims and things. We've done that because it's the right thing for us to do. We've transformed the way we work with those kids because what we did wasn't working. We had to change our approach. We're training, we're working hard, and we're in the trenches every day trying to make a difference. So I know it is awkward that the PowerPoint wasn't really there when I was looking for it, but what are your questions for me? And I'm happy to answer anything that you have.
Well, first, you were wrong. I think you're a great advocate for the county, and we are proud of you and all of your staff. So don't belittle yourself any.
Yeah.
You did a great
Humble,
job.
maybe.
Well, yes, we're all humbled by what you do. So I know that the county, we're really, I think, taking an active and progressive move against mental health shortcomings. And I certainly will be talking to you as one, and with Pam's permission. But yes. Do you feel like your building right now is adequate for doing what you need to do?
No. I do understand that when people see the building, what they see is the juvenile detention part. But that is just one function that happens in that building. It is needed. Every inch of that building is being used as detention, but classroom space, we've toyed around with portable buildings, something, just because we are literally have no place to put people. Our office staff, we don't have space for them. So it is difficult. We're so grateful and would love to remain within the juvenile justice building because that's where our work's done. I've worked at Adult Work Release Center for many years, and we just moved less than 10 years ago into the juvenile building. I wouldn't wish to separate that business away from the juvenile justice system. But classroom space, office space, it is not sufficient.
And then as far as programming goes, how do you perceive going into the future as to what your needs will be, or?
Yeah, so I spent a little time with Judge Bone a couple weeks ago because our electronic monitoring GPS needs, our monitoring needs had just gone out the roof. We've always had 20 units, usually maybe used half of them. As I looked this morning, we have, I believe, 38 people on level 1 through 6 of monitoring. Those numbers are insane, double what they've ever been. I asked him before we were changing monitoring companies, what does this look like for us? Is this just a weird little, hill or something? And he's like, no, sorry, Lori, I think this is the norm. We are being very careful here on monitoring, and the ones that we do must be on monitoring or detained. So we're very, very intentional with those decisions. So I think this is the norm. These are the numbers we're looking at. I expect them to even be higher numbers in the future. Unfortunately, I think youth crime is, because of the mental illness and the addiction issues, is probably this is the beginning of what we're going to see.
Lori, how many field officers do you currently have servicing all of those children?
Just one.
And can you explain in my research and talking with everyone, can you explain how CIT has stepped in a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. We met with them a couple weeks ago because I have one field officer as a special deputy. And we have some assistance from the adult court services, field officers at times, but their numbers, they're busy too. And so we were just trying to think of creative ways to get these kids seen in their homes and things, to make sure that they're where they're supposed to be. The monitoring equipment tells us that they leave their house, and it tells us that they return home or if they go to work, but we don't know where they're at in between or to verify that they're actually there. So that's why we need field staff. And so the CIT team has stepped in and offered to do some visits for us if they get in a day and they don't have something crisis related happening or something that they have on their schedule, we've created a space for them to go and look and see who needs visits today. And they're picking up any of those that they can, but it is just based on their availability, but we're grateful for it. So.
Lori, this is Ron.
Hey, Ron.
I'd like to thank you for the 2 years I spent as your liaison, and I learned a lot from it. But to the council members, what she has done tonight as far as a presentation is what I suggested last year, that perhaps departments should consider doing in an off-budget cycle. And it gives us some more input and knowledge of what the different opportunities are or challenges are within their departments. Thank you, Lori.
And I will say that Ron met with me 2 years ago, a year ago, and did in fact wish for us to have opportunities to do these presentations. So I'm grateful to this group that this is being allowed. Thank you for the invitation. Any other questions?
The ones on the monitoring, are they just Johnson County residents, or are they Marion County, I'm sure there's
Primarily
outside.
Johnson County,
Okay.
but again, if it is someone that's over the line into Marion County or one of the other neighboring, it's typically Marion County, other neighboring counties, if they committed the offense in Johnson County, then they may be monitored by us, but reside outside of Johnson County's limits. Yes,
So, but the majority of them are Johnson County.
majority of them are. We are seeing an increase though in kids from Marion County coming down. I think that's part of our whole crime severity of some of those. It's just that Marion County line is getting a little more blurred into Johnson County.
I also, Lori, in looking at some of the numbers and some of the things we discussed and some of the things you've tried to present today, and I know it's very hard to do this in a condensed DOC funds.
Yes.
Okay, and I know you run triple the programs after checking with numerous other counties, the same money. They basically are operating what I've looked into, double the staff, way fewer programs. And I know Johnson County is on the leading edge on establishing these programs because of the need. But I was trying to think when I did my first training with juvenile community corrections, what was that, 96?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Not like that, yeah.
a long time ago. Has there ever been any assistance from any funding sources, any staffing from outside of the funds provided by DOC at any point, other than grants?
Yeah, our primary funding source is the Department of Corrections, but up until this current fiscal cycle, we received the same amount of money, no matter whether we had two, programs or 18. And it's 225, 180. I can recite it. It's been the same number for all the years. They tricked me and they gave me $25,000 extra this year. So it's 250, 180. And that's the base amount. That's where our base salaries come from. We have had some other Title II grants and those types of things. I will be really vulnerable and honest with you. Some of those grants, if you get $20,000, if you looked at the staffing time that it costs my team and the auditor's office to manage those grants, it's probably, we're in the hole by the time that you administer those things. So you wonder sometimes if they're worth it. We have been a DCS prevention services provider for more than 10 years. And that's the grant we just approved the appropriations and stuff for here tonight. Other bits and pieces, we are recipients of some of the JDAI money that you see Christy Bruther kind of administer through that detention center. We're the recipients as the juvenile justice system to some of those that allows for some training, maybe some different equipment and those types of things. But primarily it's been DOC money, this DCS grant, and then user fees until 2 years ago when you picked up those salary supplements.
Do you deal with FSSA any?
We do not.
Do you
I'm
deal
not
with?
sure if it's allowed, FSSA. I don't know if,
Wolf?
I have not heard of that as being a funding stream or resource for other corrections or probation departments.
Any help from adult and child?
They do some services for the kids in detention or on probation, but not directly for our agency.
Okay.
Thank you, Lori.
Lori, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Y'all good? All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank
You
you.
know where to
Yeah.
find me.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, moving on to item D1, other business. It's approval of Form CF1. And it's for Umbarger. It's the office building. It's an 8,000 square foot and 40,000 square foot warehouse facility that was built on 800 East State Road 44, Franklin. And this CF1 has legal bid. Have you guys had a chance to review this? Or
We have, it appears to us that they're in substantial compliance, so.
Okay.
Sign off on it.
okay. Given that, I'll take a motion. Or is there any further discussion?
I'll move to approve.
Motion by John Myers.
Second.
Second by John Dittmers. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
John Mallers,
Aye.
Ron Deere,
Aye.
Jonathan Myers,
Aye.
John Myers,
Aye.
John Dippers.
Motion carries. And the next item is approval of Form CF1 personal property for the same, and same with legal. Have you had a chance? Okay. Good to go? Okay.
Second.
Move to approve by John Dittmer, second by John Myers. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sam Burton,
Aye.
John Mallers,
Aye.
Ron Deere,
Aye.
Jonathan Myers,
Aye.
John Myers,
Aye.
John Dippers.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the next item, D3, is tabled and moved to July meeting. Next item is D4, approval of the 2023-2024 interlocal mosquito control services contract between Johnson County Health Department and Health and Hospital Corporation of Marion County. Who would like to address this? Hi, Betsy.
Hi, Betsy Swearingen, Director of the Health Department. This is just our yearly contract that we sign with the Marion County Public Health Department in their mosquito control division to spray for adulticide for the unincorporated portions of the county.
Commissioners approved? and
Yes, this morning.
Legal was reviewed. So any discussion or questions for Betsy? Entertain a motion. Straightforward.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Pamela Burton, second by John Myers. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Sam Burton,
Aye.
John Mallers,
Aye.
Ron Deere,
Aye.
Jonathan Myers,
Aye.
John Myers,
Aye.
John Dippers.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to E, old and new business. E1, appointment of council member to Johnson County 911 Advisory Board. Ron Deere has held this position up until now, and I think we need to make this retro to May 13th, but open this up for discussion. Ron, would you have anything you'd like to say?
No, I'm interested in continuing if that's the pleasure of the council.
I'll move to nominate Ron Deere to be on the 911 board.
Second. Motion by John Myers, second by Jonathan T. Myers. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Sam Burton,
Aye.
John Mallers.
Aye.
Ron Deere,
Aye.
Jonathan Myers,
Aye.
John Myers,
Aye.
John Dippers.
Aye. Motion carries. Good job, Amy. The reason we're doing this is because whenever we have one member that's off-site, we have to take roll call. So item E2, 2024 budget information. If I put this on the agenda, did I do that?
I did
Okay.
clarify. For the first one, are you sticking with the 3% raises based on what Mike said? Or is there any more discussion on that?
Isn't that what he recommended?
That's what he went in with on his calculations. Yes.
He always uses that.
Yes.
But aren't we supposed to base his recommendations at this point? in the ballgame?
Yeah, I think that's up to council for discussion. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add?
No, I would think it's too soon to say. 3% as a base might make some sense, but it may very well deviate from that, but not necessarily. So you gotta start somewhere. That seems like a starting point.
But if we go with that, that's, they put it in, she advertises that, it cannot go up from there. It can go
But
down,
you-
but it cannot go up.
But she will advertise high, correct?
Right.
In order to cover that difference, if there should be a difference.
So what's it advertised at? Is maybe the question. Amy, is that what you're getting at or no?
I'm just trying to prevent a lot of recalculations.
Fair enough.
It's not gonna happen. How long you been doing this? You should know by now.
Well, I think that the way that the letter went out to everyone it was worded that we couldn't make a determination at the time the letter was written. I think we're in that same place still. Amy. Until we get some further information from Mike on what our, adjustments are gonna be.
But we need to give them guidelines.
Well,
He offered to run those, so if you guys wanna, you don't think, I don't think a vote on it per se, but if you guys wanna set
Yeah.
on a high end for him to run, just to. I can look at you guys.
we did ask him, I think, during the meeting to do that. So I'll follow up with a call and then maybe,
I didn't answer her question.
Well, I'm gonna make a suggestion. We stay with the 3% as he suggested and as we thought, with anticipating getting the numbers back from Mike, ran at a higher amount, and then make a solid decision later. I don't know how we could determine that right now with the information that we have.
exactly. All right, what's your next question?
Currently, it's 11.5 for health insurance. Commissioners recommend increasing that to 12.5.
Oh, I thought it was 10.5 to 11.5.
Mm-mm.
It's 11.5 to 12.5. Okay, I think that we need to do that in the budget or in the initial calculations.
I think that's needed to have been done for a while now, so.
By
I would-
consensus of council that we need to do that. Everyone, John, do you think?
Help me out. Isn't all this part of the budgeting process? We're talking about 24, right?
Yes.
So these are decisions to be made. That's kind of a given. I think that increase that Amy's talking about there, but the salary piece feels to me like we're real preliminary on any of these conversations, except for it doesn't have any effect on us right now. It has an effect on us going forward.
Amy,
These discussion items for later.
Amy, explain what these fees are and how they're established and where they come from. I mean, who pays them and what the numbers have been in the past.
So the insurance is budgeted in any funds that's not like general fund or food. It's more like PPE funds. Most grants, if they have personnel in there, also highway.
How many employees generally? Not to hold you to a singular number.
I don't know the number of employees, but there's about 11 or 12 departments that pay in. Like we've collected about 600,000 was appropriated. We've collected like 480,000 so far. Highway fees quarterly.
Yeah, I think by consensus, we all agreed that it needs to go to the 12.5. If you could verify that, please, one more time. Because I thought I thought I heard 11.5, but it's 12.
He definitely,
It's
Mhm.
12.
he said 12.5 to Commissioner.
They're here.
Meetings ago, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then could you follow up with Mike Reuter to see if he could provide you with that information on the 3, 4, 5 increments of salary, and then maybe you could distribute that to the council, and perhaps we could do something with a letter.
Third thing is basically discuss and approve hearing dates. Kind of put those in the letter, but you guys never really.
Yeah, so what dates did you put in?
Printed.
September 5th and 7th, so it's the Tuesday and Thursday after Labor Day. The following Thursday, the 14th. The final adoptions at your regular meeting on October 9th.
Somewhere in here you gave us those dates, right?
Yeah.
In this packet, I think I remember seeing it.
And we have, but it was on that letter that was sent out.
Okay.
to all departments.
Okay.
And it's a tentative dates.
Well, I'm good with whatever dates that Amy's suggesting, because I know she scrutinizes the calendar to try to make sure that everybody gets the biggest bang for their buck on the meetings, and makes it as convenient as possible. So I'll adjust my calendar accordingly.
Consensus, okay, those dates?
Whatever makes Amy happy.
That's a good way to put it.
And buying units, what time would you like them? I feel like the last few years,
It's been after lunch.
well, they're at 1 o'clock for their public hearing, but on the date of adoption, we have them at 5. Something that's so quickly, do you still want them at 5? Your regular meeting at 6, or do you want them at 5:30?
Let's stay with the 5, please. A suggestion to everyone. Never know what's
I'm
gonna
good.
happen. Yeah. 5, please.
Real quick, that is the Tuesday after Labor Day, is that,
It is.
You okay with that?
why, it
also
doesn't impact
Columbus
me
Day.
any, but is that just for
Would you like us to bring in some
calendar wise?
aspirin or?
Hopefully the department heads and other officials are also okay with that.
I have found no Adam. If
You're
it's
looking
not,
out for
if it's not
looking
that,
out
it's
for
gonna be
Brian.
something
Yeah, I
else.
am, you know, I mean, I'll be here regardless, but that Tuesday after Labor Day seems kind of tough, but I guess everyone's done it in the past.
To that point, is there, but because we've done it in the past, does it mean we have to do it going forward if it's a better alternative, or is that a thing? I don't know. I'm asking the question.
There's never a time, normally you can never get, everybody at that time of the year is either going back to school or on vacation. It's after a holiday, it's before a holiday. There's always a reason why, so that's why I suggested, I know she's already looked at the calendar, so,
And it's also been a function of when we get some of the information from
yeah,
the state
exactly, so.
and Mike
It's
Reuter.
what?
When we get some information back from the state and when Mike Reuter is able to compile the,
Which she takes that into consideration as well.
What's the date the budgets are due from the department heads to Amy?
I'm thinking July 21st.
I couldn't hear what you say.
July 21st.
Okay.
anything else? Anything from the council?
Yeah, I have a question. Can we back up that insurance and how that's, is that relevant to the 23 budget, that change? Or is that for?
24 budget.
So, okay, so it's not relevant now,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Because it felt like it was.
Yeah. But as people are working on their budgets and their grants and things, if they know that number has gone up, they can start it for
But
next
as far
year.
as we're concerned right now.
Right,
there's nothing
exactly,
going on there, right?
exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
No,
You got one
we
more?
got one more.
All right.
The library.
Oh, yes. So we have a declaration of fiscal body, Edinburgh Wright Hageman Public Library. would you like to address this or?
Amy sent it to me, it's really just an acknowledgement that this body can review their budget. It doesn't appear that we'll ever have any binding review from this library branch. It really just seems to be a non-binding review. So I don't think it in effect will have much impact on us or them, but per statute, this would be the fiscal body that would review any non-binding. Be divided as a non-binding review of their budgets, so.
And the
Sorry?
council has a representative on that board.
Yes.
So I served last year and so their budget information can be reported back at any time. I think this is more of a
I
formality
think so.
and a housekeeping thing than it is anything, John.
But they're in, Edinburgh is in 3 different counties. And I just had a question about
This,
this.
well, this branch is in Johnson County, I checked that. as well.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question. Weren't we having a joint meeting with commissioners in June sometime?
We are not for the HR stuff. That's been kind of pushed. And then we're working on a smaller meeting with a couple of council members for some bonding questions with bonding council. So that will be scheduled hopefully here next couple of weeks, but we had previously talked about a joint meeting with commissioners for the HR department, but in having discussions with them, at the moment, there's no appetite to create an HR department, which is really under their purview anyway, so.
Okay, anything else?
Do you need anything on the,
Did we vote on that declaration for
You
Edmund?
have not
Did get a
voted on
motion.
that, so that's just the-
not a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the declaration to the town of Edinburgh, right, Hageman Public Library, item E3 on the agenda that was added.
Second.
Motion by Pamela Burton, second by John Mollers. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Pam Burton,
Aye.
John Mallers,
Aye.
Ron Deere,
Aye.
Jonathan Myers,
Aye.
John Myers,
Aye.
John Hitler.
Motion carries, and I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Well done.